What's up, gorgeous? I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to another episode of the Fierce Framework, where we talk about becoming fierce through messy action, baby steps, and cultivating confidence. I'm your host, Mary Beth. I am a self-diagnosed ADHDer who loves French fries and the beach, and I am passionate about coaching other ADHD entrepreneurs to build their businesses in a way that supports their dream life. So I know a lot of us have struggles that are unique to being ADHD, especially in the entrepreneur space, but also entrepreneurship fits an ADHD brain so much better than corporate does generally, typically. So I'm super passionate about helping us build these businesses and not give up and figure out how to move forward so that we can live the lives that we want, so that we can go through life feeling lit up, being stoked about being here, and ditching corporate, if and when necessary. So that is a little bit about me. What I want to talk about today is giving yourself what you need. So I am on a little like self-acceptance kind of, I don't know, run here. I've been preaching about it a lot. So if you're subscribed to the newsletter, which I'll include a link in the description, I send out emails every Saturday morning, just a little extra to chat with you. Things that I learned or things that have been helping me recently or things that I feel like are just really valuable that I've learned throughout the week. I share those tidbits with you every Saturday morning. And so we've been on kind of a trajectory of talking about self-acceptance. And last time's podcast episode, almost said last week, but we're bi-weekly because that's what works for me. Last podcast episode, we talked about accepting yourself and like how you are so that we can figure out what works for us and like work with ourselves instead of against ourselves, instead of constantly trying to change yourself to fit into like the advice you're getting. And talked about like accepting yourself and then filtering the advice and feedback and input and routines and whatever based on what works for you. And then also tied in accepting where you're at and acknowledging kind of like what step you're on and like where you're at in your journey so that you can help figure out like to help you figure out what the next step is. Because if we're lying to ourselves or we're unaware of like what step we're currently on, it's really hard to identify what the next step is going to be. And so that is super valuable. That's what we talked about last time. So we're kind of following this trajectory, and I want to talk about giving yourself what you need. I've got notes over here and I want to make sure I don't miss anything. So you're going to see me glancing to the side of the screen a lot. Okay. So we beat ourselves up over needing things all the time, or at least me. At least I do. So if I'm alone, let me know and we can move on to the next topic. But we tend to do this, or like we try to need less or like reject our needs so that we like don't feel bad for just having needs. But humans have needs. We need things, and that's okay. Like, I think there's such a shame and stigma around needing things, which is a basic normal human thing. But I think especially for us neurospicy people, because our needs tend to be different than neurotypical people, and the world is built for neurotypical people. America, excuse me, I haven't traveled the whole world yet. So America is built for neurotypical people, and so when we're used to like growing up and our needs are always different, we get the messaging that our needs are a lot or too much or a burden or all these things, right? And so oftentimes, or if you're anything like me, you started internalizing that and you felt like having needs equaled being needy, and that is not the case. Okay. Having needs is a normal human thing. And so I want us to start working on accepting that. And I am not preaching from a place of like, I've arrived. I am sharing from a place of this is my journey. And these are the things that I see are like important and that I'm working on. And like these are goals that I'm working towards and like a journey that I'm on, lessons that I'm currently learning. Okay. So, I mean, I never want to come at you from a place of like superiority or like, oh my gosh, I have this all figured out. You should totally like follow my step-by-step plan. Nope. But I am here to be your buddy and we can figure this shit out together. And if I stumble and trip over something or fall on my face, then I want to give you a heads up and be like, hey, watch out for that. I hit my face on that rock. Like, don't do that. Okay. So that is kind of the stance of like where I feel like I'm coming from. And I hope that that's communicated to you. If not, that's what words are for. That's what I just explained. Um, yeah, because I really feel like we're like on this journey together, but two is better for one. Two is better than one because we can have each other's backs. Okay. Boom. So having needs is normal. I have not arrived there yet. It's a journey I'm still on, but I know that we're allowed to, and that having needs does not mean anything bad. It doesn't mean you're needy. It doesn't mean you're a burden. Like people have needs, and that's okay. And one of the main points I want to make is it's normal to need different things. One of the things that I found really frustrating is like when my needs change, especially like in relationships with other people, right? You're like, maybe you kind of just figured out what you need, or maybe you just figured out like how to communicate it, or like what helps with that need. For me, I can find that really frustrating because I feel like I'm in a different space so often. And it can be really, especially in the past, it's been really hard for me to identify like where am I at right now, right? And like, so what do I need? Because that takes a lot of like in the moment figuring out what's going on, which is one of the things I'm terrible at. And there's a name for that, like not being able to process, I think, emotions in real time. Alexithymia, I think. It's an autism thing. So, A, that's real. But also, like, yeah, so if you like historically have a hard time either articulating or identifying your needs or meeting your needs, then it can be really frustrating when those change. And then as someone who was told like their whole life that they're flaky and spasmodic and all over the place and chaotic, I don't know if you received any of that messaging being ADHD, but that's like it like picks at that core wound, right? They're like, oh my God, I'm a shit show. And then you're like, my needs are changing. I'm not allowed to have changing needs. Like, I just figured out how to meet this need and now it's changed and now I need something else. Am I allowed to need something else? I just acknowledged that I was allowed to need the first thing in the first place, right? So, very sticky. It's a lot, but it's okay. Like, this is part of being human, okay? Especially as a woman, we are changing all the time. And honestly, as humans, don't we want to be? If we're not changing and learning and growing, like what are we doing? It makes sense that you would need different things. Okay? So think about a baby. So from our very first days of life, we have needed things, and then our needs have been changing our whole life. And that is normal and natural and healthy. Or when you think about a plant, right? Sometimes you got to switch up the soil. Sometimes you got to add a little fertilizer. Sometimes you got to add a little sunlight. Sometimes you got to repot it, right? Because they need different things. And one of the identities I'm fully embracing is that I'm basically just a complicated houseplant. So that tracks. Sometimes I need to be repotted and I need new shit, and that's fine. Okay? And same goes for you. You're allowed to have needs that change. That is a normal and healthy thing. So, tying into that, sorry, I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Tying into that, we want to tap in to figuring out what we need and being and work on like being able to identify that and accepting it and meeting those needs. Because the better we get at that, the easier it's going to be, right? So as I'm like constantly practicing that, it does get easier, I promise. You start figuring out, okay, I think maybe I need this. And then you try it and you can try and see what works and see what doesn't and like try different things. Like you're absolutely allowed to do that. And one of the things that blew my mind, this is so embarrassing. My coach told me like something that doesn't work, like something can work, but not work 100% of the time. And that doesn't mean that it doesn't work. It just means that it didn't work that time. You can try something else. And that blew my mind because I was like, if it doesn't work 100% of the time, then it doesn't work. Because it's like sometimes I feel better after journaling. Sometimes I feel better after working out. Sometimes I feel better after spending time outside. And I know I'm supposed to do all these things, but most of the time I don't. especially not immediately. Most of the time after working out, I feel fucking tired. Most of the time after journaling, I'm like, okay, cool. And then, after like going outside, hit or miss, right? Depends on the weather. But like, and sometimes like you'll feel really good after journaling, and sometimes you won't feel anything. Sometimes you might feel worse because maybe you were like processing some stuff that you were suppressing before. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't work. It is whatever it is meeting your needs. It's not required to work 100% of the time in order to be a useful, helpful, need meeting tool for you. So I just wanted to share that because I was like, that seems fake. I thought it had to be like 100% guaranteed, or else I wasn't choosing a good enough solution. And she was like, you're crazy. She didn't say it, she would never, but that's what I told myself when I saw her face. Okay, so yes, sorry, I'm really excited. I'm all hyped up. I think it's because I'm planning on going to karaoke tonight, and I got all like dressed up because I don't like to leave my house late, but it is really awkward to show up at karaoke night too early. And so I was like, let me get all dressed up, let me put my makeup on, because then I am less likely to bail. Because that's what I need, right? And then I'll record the podcast, and plus then I'll look like pretty, and you'll get to see me not in a hoodie for once in my life. So that's my life story that I'm sure you were dying to know. It's normal to need different things. Your needs are allowed to change, and that's okay. And so accepting ourselves, it just takes away so much complication, and it like removes so much of a barrier when you just accept, hey, I'm allowed to have needs, and hey, these needs are going to change depending on the season of life I'm in, or just where I'm at in my journey. It's totally normal for things to change, and that acceptance takes away just like so much bullshit from the process of then figuring out, okay, what do I need? Right? Because if you're putting so much like energy into shaming yourself for having needs, then it's like you have to drudge through all that bullshit to get to the point of meeting the need. But when you accept it, you take away all that crap and you're like, cool, oh, here's a need. I need food. I need something, right? And you're like, okay, that's fine. You're like, wow, I needed vegetables yesterday, but today I feel like I need carbs. Like, okay, let's go get you a carb, right? Like, and so it just makes the process so much simpler when you have that level, when you're starting from acceptance instead of starting from like shame or denial or shoulding on yourself, that you shouldn't need these things or you should need other things or whatever the case may be. Two, allowing yourself to need things helps you cultivate empathy and understanding for other people. My notes are really deep on this one. Okay. Um, so allowing yourself to need things, it actually cultivates empathy and understanding for others. And hear me out, it combats ableism and shame, I believe. It's the whole leading by example thing. Okay. And this is one of the things that has like helped get through to me because as a recovering people pleaser, it is so much and it's so frustrating that I'm still like this, but hey, whatever works, accept where you are and go from there. Sometimes we need little crutches and little tools to like keep us going. So I realize that it is easier for me to get myself to do something if it benefits other people. And I think that that's a huge ADHD thing. So I am trusting that you can relate. So, in a perfect world, right, I would just do something because it's good for me, or it's healthy for me, or it's getting me where I want to go in life. But truth be told, that is not always enough to get me to do the thing. But sometimes what pushes me into action, into doing the things that are good for me, into doing doing the thing I want to do is knowing that it benefits other people. So that's why we have step two here is when you allow yourself to have needs and you normalize it and you take away the shame and you realize like this is a normal human thing. I have needs. That's okay. Then it is like you're leading by example, right? You're practicing what you preach, right? So next time you're trying to normalize it for your friend or your kid or your client or whoever it is, when they can look back at your life and be like, oh, no, she actually walks this out. This is not something that she is telling me that she doesn't do. So this is encouraging us, me, right, to practice what we preach. If I am telling you that you're allowed to have needs, but I don't let myself have needs, you're not stupid. You're gonna look at me and be like, she doesn't really believe that because she's not living it out. And so when we start living this stuff out and we start working through the feelings of discomfort and the stretching of growth and learning new things and trying new things and all that uncomfortable, like, ugh, as we're working through that, because that is the work, doing it and feeling all those crappy feelings and like figuring it out and wading through it and doing it anyway because you know this is what you need, right? You are leading the way, like you are forging a path, you are strengthening what you say because you're acting it out, and people aren't stupid, they can see that. So next time you tell someone about allowing themselves to have needs, and they can look at you and see, like, oh, she's doing this work, she's done this work, you have so much more credibility than if you just hear me say it and you go regurgitate it to somebody else and you're not walking it out. Okay. So it is so powerful just doing the things, taking the action, figuring out how to sit through the discomfort and work through it and figure out, like, what do I need? Where is this coming from? Can I just like sit with this discomfort and let it dissipate? Is there something that I need to do? How can I work on changing my beliefs around it? Like all those types of things, like that is the work. And that makes such an impact on your life, first of all, but then also on the people around you. So when we start doing this kind of work, we are like we're becoming the change we want to see in the world, basically, right? And then you're like building a mentality that community can be built around because you've gone through that path now. Like you know how it feels and you've sat in the discomfort and you've figured out that the discomfort dissipates eventually, or here's some things that you did that helped, or you did XYZ to help you figure out like how to be okay with it and how to move forward. And now you have all these tools and experience to share with the people around you. But you also know how it feels, and pretty much everybody has a different experience, but you know pretty much what they're going through because you've actually been through it. And you're not just like copycatting something that you heard somebody say on a TikTok, right? So doing the work for ourselves is incredibly important. And also, I believe that allowing ourselves to have needs really does combat ableism and shame. And I don't feel like I am the authority in talking about ableism. I have a lot of ableist like mentalities that I haven't worked through yet. Um, Mostly because I like didn't even realize how biased I was. But especially as ADHDers, right? Like we're in such a powerful place because there are so many benefits to ADHD, and some people want to call it a superpower, right? And I'm not here to say that it's all bad and that there's nothing good, not at all. I don't even think the ADHD in a vacuum is a bad thing. I think we're amazing. But in the context of our culture, it's a disability because it makes functioning within our culture incredibly difficult. Personally, I think that's a cultural problem and not like an ADHD problem, but we're the minority, so we're the ones with the disability. Okay. Um, but we have, I feel like this unique perspective, right? Where it's like so many of us function really well and like we figured out how to do things, and we even are really good at things that neurotypical people aren't as good at, right? So there are advantages and there are superpowers in being ADHD, but there are also incredibly hard disabling yeah, I guess that's the word. Like things that we deal with that completely knock us off our game sometimes. I mean, being frozen and beating yourself up to just get up and do something and not being able to get up and do it. Executive dysfunction, the ADHD tax, right? Where we're constantly costing ourselves extra money because we're forgetting shit or like being late and paying fines and like all the So it's like you have the combination of a superpower and a disability. And so we're in this really like unique perspective to speak up on it and to be a voice for people with different disabilities who are may not have the same superpowers that we have, right? Or may not have this the kind of flip side. They may not have the advantages that we have. So it puts us in a really cool place where we can kind of use that privilege of the superpower parts of ADHD and the fact that like a lot of us are able to survive and even thrive sometimes depending on the environment in this culture. So, just wanted to throw that out there. That's my little soapbox. Um and then combating the shame is huge. And that is one of the things. So I know I talk about TikTok, being on TikTok a lot because I am, but one of the things I love about TikTok, and like you'll notice if you talk to somebody who's like really into TikTok, is when you like get to the core of what they like, more often than not, I've found that what people really like is sharing our stories combats shame. People I know who are like really about TikTok who are just so grateful for it. People are like, it changed my life. Like, where you're like, it's just an app, calm down. But when you hear why these people are so passionate about an app, it's because they're passionate about hearing other people share their stories. Like from what I've seen over and over, when you dig down to it, like why are you obsessed? It's because when people share their stories, it's so powerful. It normalizes what we're going through. Because like I feel like there's like an official quote, but it's like you'll hear it, you'll see in the TikTok comments, right? It's like I've never had an original experience, or however people phrase it, right? Like I've never had an original thought. I've never, and that being able to witness someone else dealing with the situation that you're dealing with and being so validated, like, holy shit, I'm actually not alone. Oh my gosh, I feel so seen. And it's just somebody else sharing their experience. Okay. And that is so powerful because it fights against our feeling of being isolated, because when you feel like you're the only one, it is so isolating. So you know, you can have like loneliness, lack of friends, etc. And like feeling like you're the only one feeling something or experiencing something, that is a different kind of isolation as well. Different as well, whatever. You know what I mean? So having someone speak to that and realizing that you're actually not alone is really powerful and can be like life-giving. It can help people feel hope again because they see like if you can do it, I can do it. Like generally is the concept, right? Like, okay, I'm not the only one dealing with this. And then also combating the shame, because a lot of messaging we get, I believe it's like pretty much universal as ADHDers, but from my experience, there's so much shame, right? Because there is such a perspective that having ADHD is your shortcoming, that you're doing something wrong. If you would just apply yourself or work harder or just focus, or because, right? Because we have the superpower too. Like sometimes you can hyper focus and like you're crazy smart and you're figuring out everything there ever was to know about dinosaurs. And then your mom is like, why won't you do your math homework? And it's like, you can, I see that you can focus. I see that you can hyper focus. Like you've been studying dinosaurs for hours. Why can't you spend 15 minutes on your math? And you're like, it's not the same, right? But it becomes this, you aren't trying hard enough. You're not applying yourself, because they can see the brilliance. They can see you're smart and they see like the hyper focus, right? And they're like, why can't you just do that? Apply that to something else. And it's like, that's not how it works. And then they're like, you're lying because you're lazy. And you're like, okay. So there's so much shame because so many of us got the messaging that it's our fault, that our ADHD symptoms are really just us not caring to try, not putting in enough effort, being flippant, being flighty, whatever. And so that shame comes like, it becomes there's something wrong with you, and we internalize that, so many of us. But when you start speaking out and when you start sharing your story and when you start relating to other people who have the same story, that shame starts crumbling, bro. And I hope that you are able to experience this and like know this from witnessing it and like being part of that because it's so powerful. It's like as soon as somebody else is like, yeah, me too, you're like, holy shit. Especially if it's a friend or like somebody we respect, right? Because you're like, I know you're not broken. You're amazing. Because it's so much easier for us to see the light in other people than it is for us to see the light in ourselves. Probably ties back into shame as well. But you're like, wait, you're amazing. And if you do that and I do that, maybe I'm not a complete piece of shit because that one thing. And so it really takes away the power from the shame when we share our stories and when we talk about what we're going through and like what our experiences are. And when we start realizing we're not the only ones and like it's not your fault. So you can be the catalyst for that when you decide to share and start showing up and allowing yourself to have needs and looking for ways to meet your needs and accommodations and like whatever you need, right? So it's normal to need things and normal to need different things. Allowing yourself to need things actually helps other people and it builds like a community, right? And that is step three. The accepting help is huge. So it ties into it is so powerful in building community because when we rely on each other, that's what builds that like network. That's what build it's like a woven blanket, right? Where you have like all the threads and you have like the ones, na na na, and they're intertwined and that's what makes them so strong is they're interwoven, they're intertwined, and they're leaning on each other and they're supporting one another and they're going through life together. And that is what a community is. And it's so powerful right now because we are so individualistic, and that is part of what is being exploited with taking advantage of certain people, right? Especially people of color. The crazy thing that's happening in our world right now is I know I sound like a conspiracy theorist, but I'm not wrong. They are counting on us being so concerned with ourselves that we're not willing to show up for other people because we're so individualistic. And I know like that's a huge part of American culture, and I was super into that for a long time. And that's something I'm still working on. I am not great at community and I'm not great at needing like leaning on other people. But I believe that it's so powerful because that is literally what builds the fabric of a community. Is one person leans and another person leans, right? And you're all intertwined instead of just having one person hanging out telling themselves they're self-sufficient and they don't need anyone because they're an island. Okay, sorry. That was my rant. Not apologizing for the rant, actually, so not sorry. The third part, though, is that accepting help. So it's like normalizing it, sharing, allowing yourself to have needs, but then also accepting help with those needs being met, especially as neurospicy people, right? We have different needs and we're good at different things, right? So, for example, I do like a body doubling co-working session on Saturdays once a month. And I mean, not like I'm changing the world. I hear that sounded really like soapboxy. Not that that's like the solution to everything, but like that's one little thing, right? And what's interesting to me is like it can seem silly. Co-working is actually such a powerful tool to help us like do the things that we've been struggling to do. And like there's science behind it. I trust it. I can't explain it to you because I'm not gonna lie. The first time I heard about it, I was like, that sounds so stupid. If I'm just gonna like sit on Zoom on mute with other people, how am I gonna get more done than if I just did it myself? But there's something powerful about having like another person there and so boom, we do it. Okay. So my point with that story is that like anecdote is that it doesn't need to make sense and it doesn't need to be earth shattering. Okay. If you need somebody there sitting next to you while you get something done, okay. If you need somebody to run errands with you, great. I remember the first time I asked my sister to pick up my groceries, I felt so guilty. I was like, can you just like, it was because I do grocery pickup, first of all. I wasn't even shopping. I already placed the order. Literally, all I had to do is like go to the store, wait in the parking lot, sign in on the app, have them put the groceries in my trunk, come home. And we like had a conversation where she was like offering to help me. And I was like, actually, if you could pick up my groceries, that would be really helpful. And it was like so weird because I was like, it seems so stupid. And the same thing, like I had used the laundry service a couple times. And I was like, I can do this myself. I don't like need somebody to do my laundry. But in those weeks, it just came in clutch, dude. It was like I didn't want to deal with it. It was overwhelming me, and just allowing somebody else to do it for me. I mean, paying them, you know, but like allowing myself, giving myself permission to use a service, right? And getting that help was like, okay, like a huge step. So I know that it can feel really hard and it can feel kind of crazy to like have somebody do something for you that you could totally do yourself. But I want to encourage you to practice it anyway because it's important. And you might need different things than other people need, and it might not make sense and it might not seem normal, and it doesn't have to. That's what you need, and it's not about them, and that's okay, right? So, some of the things that I found, like when you can't get yourself to just like do the thing, right? A support group or like an accountability group, right? So I have a group of a couple women who we all have our own businesses and we meet on Tuesdays and we like talk about what's going on, where we're at, we listen to each other, we offer support to one another, and it's just so powerful to like have that community and that little bit of accountability, right? Because you know people are going to ask you what you've been working on and how things are going. And so like it's kind of like a deadline almost. You're like, oh, I've got the check-in coming up, so like let me get my ducks in a row or like let me check this thing off my list so I have like something I'm excited to share, a win that I'm excited to talk about, right? That can be really powerful. A coach, just to like have someone rooting for you, cheering you on, giving you tips, feedback, advice, holding up a mirror so you can see what's going on with you, checking in with you, holding you accountable, all those types of things can be super powerful. An accountability app. I don't have any recommendations for this because I don't use one. Doesn't mean that I shouldn't be using one, but I feel like there's apps out there, right? Um, or outsourcing it, like I was talking about with the laundry, or getting someone to clean your house, or whatever it is. Like, you don't have to do all the things. So, if there's something where you could use a little bit support, I want to encourage you to get that support. Those are just a couple of ideas, like literally whatever you need. I want to encourage you to get the support because you're allowed to have needs, and let's meet those needs so that you can keep going, so that you can reduce the overwhelm, so that you have more capacity and energy to enjoy your life. And the capacity and energy is also what helps us be creative, right? If you notice, like when you're overwhelmed and you're grinding and you're struggling and you feel like you're drowning in life, it is so hard to create and to pour into your business because that requires capacity and energy and like room to play. So it's really powerful as an entrepreneur, I believe, to give ourselves capacity wherever we can. And honestly, a lot of that time, that looks like accepting help. Okay. Overwhelmed, so if you're just overwhelmed by all the things, I don't know, I just made a random list here. An assistant, okay, or like software. So whether that's I don't know, AI is a gray area, right? But if that's AI, if using AI to help you do something faster, or like editing software, maybe you pay for the upgraded version that saves you hours, or like whatever it is, right? Yeah, my mind's going blank, but software, there's tools out there that you can just allow yourself to use, right? I do want to caveat if you're actually going to use it, because I know as an ADHDer, it can be so enticing to just buy something new or get a new planner or invest in new software and be like, this is it. This is going to fix everything. This is going to change my life. But then like not considering that it is not going to do the work for you. So you still have to use it in order for it to be helpful. So just grain of salt, just remember that. Um I don't want to say go and buy all the software and all the things. I want to encourage you to invest in the things that you're actually going to use to make your life better. Okay? Because I know how we are. Alrighty. And, ooh, lastly, my little note here is I can already hear you saying, but that's expensive. And hear me out. Do less. I know. I think that's going to be the next podcast episode. Do less. I'm so tired of us doing all the things. Okay. And in light of that, I'm also tired of looking like a loser because I'm not doing all the things because I refuse. But I also believe that my way's better. So I want to get more people on the do less bandwagon so that I don't have to constantly work through my feelings of inferiority. Okay. So selfishly. Um, no, but I mean, there's so many things that we're doing, and then we're like investing in things to allow us to do more. And there's so many things that we just like stop doing. So, yeah. All right. So to review here, if we're gonna lean on the notes, let's lean heavy. Today's topic is you're allowed to have needs. Topic bullet point one, it's normal to need different things. So allow your needs to change. Don't beat yourself up for needing different things. That is totally normal. If you're healthy, growing, learning, you're gonna change. Your needs are gonna change. Allowing yourself to need things actually builds you, your empathy, your compassion for under other people, because like you get it. And then it also combats ableism and shame. So it's actually super powerful to work through that and allow yourself to need things, because then it also helps change your mindset when you're looking at other people and seeing that they need things too. It just helps us become so much more accepting and empowering with one another. And then accepting help is key. Okay. So letting other people help you meet your needs, letting other people show up for you, support you, encourage you, bolster you up, do you a favor, allowing help, accepting help is so important, not only because it builds community, which is top tier, but also because that actually because it builds community. Everything I'm going to say ties back into that. Like it's the fabric. So I hope this spoke to you. I hope something in here was helpful. As always, I love to hear from you. So if you have anything you want to share, any questions, anything you want to dive into further, always feel free, please, to hit me up. I am at the Fierce Framework everywhere: Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. It's my email, confidence@thefierceframework.net. That's kind of hard to remember. I will include informations in the description. And yeah, I just hope you know that you're doing so great and keep going. Everything's a process, everything's a journey. You're not going to get this overnight. I am still working on not beating myself up for needing shit, okay? And combating feelings of feeling needy. So, again, I haven't arrived. You don't have to arrive yet, but starting the journey is so powerful, and that is the only way to get through the journey is you have to start. So, I will see you next time. I'm so proud of you. And until then, keep becoming fierce.